to another QuickBooks training moment with Steiner Business Solutions. My name is Doug, and this is part 2 of our tour of the preferences section of QuickBooks. So enjoy. What's next? Finance charge. Yes, we're going to save those changes. Company preferences. If you want QuickBooks to actually calculate and keep track of finance charges for your clients, this is where you have those default settings. Again, you can always override them, but this is how it's going to assign the default settings. No personal preferences, so there's only company-wide preferences for that. Alright, general preferences. There's a little bit more involved here. So under the company preferences, there's not too much involved. This details how it's going to show portions of an hour. Do you want to see minutes like you would on a digital clock, or do you want to see it as a decimal? It'll default to normal, minutes and hours. Showing years as 4-digit numbers. Save transactions before printing. That's an important one, actually. It defaults to that. That way, if let's say you wanted to print a check, it'll force you to save the check before it actually prints it. That could help prevent somebody from printing a check but never actually saving it in the system. That could cause all kinds of problems if you printed a check but it didn't actually record the transaction, whether you intentionally or accidentally forgot to record the transaction. So it defaults to that. Alright, under the personal preferences, my preferences, you can just look through all these things. Again, typically you have to hit tab to move between the fields. You can click this and now the enter button will take you through the different fields. Automatically open up drop-down lists when typing, beep when recording a transaction. You can have the decimal place be automatically pre-filled. If you're used to adding machines that actually put the 2 decimals in for you and put the decimal place in for you automatically every time, you can, if you like that, you can turn that on here, so it'll have that same feature. Warns you when you're editing a transaction that's already been recorded. You can kind of look through here and see what all these other things are that you can change. It's going to warn you if you're deleting a transaction or an unused list item, just so you don't accidentally do those things. Here you can actually have it check this, so QuickBooks will kind of constantly be running in the background, so it'll open up faster. If you are someone who's constantly opening it and closing it, this way it can open and close faster. Automatically recall account information for vendors, things like that, and pre-fill the information so that makes your data entry go a little bit quicker. You can choose here for transaction, use the last entered date as the default, or use today's date as the default, things like that. Keep custom item information when changing item in transactions. That's another option. Alright, let's keep on going. Integrated applications. No personal preferences here. This is where you can integrate all kinds of third-party softwares, bill paying, payroll, timekeeping, scheduling software, CRM things that you can, there are tons of programs out there that will integrate with QuickBooks and they can share data back and forth. This is where you allow certain programs to do that or not do that. You can turn those preferences on or off here. Alright, items and inventory. This is where you turn on whether you want to use inventory or not. Inventory and purchase orders are active. If you don't use it, you can turn it off and it'll just take away all of those options. It's going to warn you for duplicate purchase orders here. Typically you'd want to leave that on. And just some more other options here that are related to inventory that would all be grayed out if you turn inventory off. It'll warn you here if you don't have enough inventory to sell when you're ordering something or putting in a sales order or an order. And down here you can, if you want to have multiple units of measure, you can turn that on here as well. Hit enable and you can go and figure out what those units of measure are. So you may sell things by the unit, by the pallet, by the bundle, whatever. You can create those different unit measures there. And there's no personal preferences for this topic. Jobs and estimates. No personal preferences here. Again, for the different job statuses that you can have, these are the different statuses here. but you can actually rename them and call them something different. If something your company uses different terminology, you can change these right here. And down here, do you create estimates? No. So all this other stuff is grayed out. If I say yes, we do, then it gives you these other preferences that you can select. Do you do progress invoicing? You want the estimates to close after you convert them to an invoice and things like that. Multiple currencies. No personal preferences here. Company preferences. If you use more than one currency, if you have international transactions, you can turn that on. One thing I will warn you, and QuickBooks will warn you also, if once you turn that feature on, you cannot turn it off. So this is where you would go if you are going to use multiple currencies. And setting that up and using that could be a whole nother video in itself. Alright, payments. Receiving payments. Automatically apply payments when you go into the receive payment screen. It'll look at the amount of payment that you received, and it'll try to match it to an invoice. If it doesn't find an exact match, then it will try to just go back and pay the oldest ones first. Automatically calculate payments, use undeposited funds. That's the default deposit account. You can change that. If you turn that off, you could use it, change it to the bank account. And you can turn on these options if your customers are going to pay you this way directly as well. And no personal preferences there. Alright, the next topic we have is payroll and employees. Under personal preferences, there's nothing for payroll and employees. This is where you would go on and turn on what kind of payroll you're using. You have the option of going in here and choosing what type of information you want to show up on the pay stubs, whether you're tracking workers' compensation, through H-Payroll, sick and vacation time, put in how it's accrues, how it's tracked, that kind of thing. Some other preferences, you can have it recall information, quantities, and hours from previous paychecks for each employee if you want. This way it's defaulted. You can turn that off. This is where you can choose whether you're going to use job costing and class tracking in your payroll. You may use that in your for job costing for expenses and things like that, but you may not use it for payroll. But it has the ability to actually cost information through the classes into jobs as well, and it will actually cost the payroll taxes as well, not just the wages. And then this is how you can assign the classes per paycheck, or per paycheck. Employee defaults. This is how they're listed. First name, last name. You can change that. Whether you want to see Social Security numbers displayed here. So these are all your preferences for employees and payroll. So thanks for watching part 2 of our video on preferences in QuickBooks. Make sure you come back for part 3, and make sure you check us out on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those social media places. And you should see a link on the screen that you can click to make sure you subscribe to our page, and you'll be one of the first ones to know every time I release a new video. Thanks.